To order. Thanks for coming, everyone. We have a couple things to go through. I was going to introduce the new member, but he couldn't be here tonight. But I think we all know Scott. Jim retired, resigned, and Scott was recently appointed, so he'll be joining us. He just couldn't make it tonight because he's traveling. So welcome, Scott, if you're watching. Usually, I know, right? Welcome back. Usually we reorganize the board since we had one member leave and a new member come, and so I am happy to stay on as chair if anybody else is interested. Happy to discuss that too. Or I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion. Can we just leave everything the same on a motion, or do you want to?
Do you have to do each one separate, or?
Nope, you can, whatever you choose.
So Mo is the vice chair. Do you still have an interest in being the
clerk.
clerk? Okay. Anybody else have an interest in any of those? No?
Did we want to see if Scott had any interest?
I think it's on the agenda for tonight, so if he's not here, I think we just go with what we have, right? So I guess.
I'd like to make a motion to
Okay.
keep the committee as they presently hold their roles. You as chairperson, Mo as co-chair, and chairperson.
Okay.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No? Okay. Thank you. So we have to review and vote on recommendations on articles for the special town meeting. So I think we have 3. 2 are, excuse me, bylaws, and 1 is just a funding request for something that held over from last year that did not get paid before the fiscal year ended. So the first one is around accessory dwelling units. It's a bylaw that we already had, but we have to change to, well, we don't have to change. We're going to vote whether we want to change it to match the state bylaw. However, we really don't have a choice, is my understanding. Do you want to talk a little more about that?
So we were contacted a handful of years ago. We knew the state was going to require an accessory dwelling unit bylaw. I thought we did a really good job. We went to town meeting in 2023, had an or 2024, maybe 2024. We had an accessory dwelling bylaw created in a past a town meeting. I thought it was good and it was fair. And then the legislature then created its own ADU, which nobody actually expected. And so they did. And so now we're non-compliant. So there are basically 2 primary changes. For the most part, really, it's 2 changes. The similarities are, it's still 900 square feet. It cannot exceed. It cannot be rented out for short-term rentals. So it's meant to be for long-term. As we created ours, the real intent was so that way if you had like a parent or a family member that wanted to move in. So the real changes or the differences between what we had and what the state came out with is that ours, 1, requires the accessory dwelling unit to be attached to the primary residence. And the state one, it's not a requirement. So, some people, for example, have a detached garage. So if they want to create that detached garage into an ADU or add it on top or whatever, the state law would allow that by right. They still have to pull a building permit. They still have to do setbacks and all that stuff, but they can't prevent them from doing it or requiring a special permit. Or, although in most cases it's cost prohibitive, you could just build a whole standalone new building. You just can't exceed 900 square feet. So that's primary number 1 change. The second one, which I think is much more problematic, again, nothing we can do about it, is that our bylaw was written that it must be owner-occupied. So, for example, if one of you has a house and you want to add an ADU, that's A-OK, you owner-occupied, you add it, and you do what you want. In this case here now, you can actually buy, you could be an investor, buy multiple single-family homes, by right add an accessory dwelling unit onto it, and you can live in Florida. And I think that, we'll get to MBTA in a moment, and I'm gonna say this, I said this last night at the selectmen meeting, I've said it before, I'll say it again, I honestly believe this, it's my opinion, but I think the MBTA law is probably one of the worst pieces of legislation that we've ever seen. And I'm not happy with it, and I don't like the proverbial gun to our head on it. It'll have some impact. The ADU bylaw, in my opinion, has much more of an impact. Because you have over 3,000 single-family homes in West Bridgewater. Every single one of them now became the potential for a multifamily.
Right.
The ADU, the MBTA is 143. It's not great, but it's capped, right? It's limits. But if we end up, right now you have 3,000 homes, let's assume you have a couple more subdivisions, you add a couple more 100 homes, you add 200 homes, well, you might just add 400 households. Because they can all add an ADU. And there's nothing you can do. So, and because it's now not going to be primary ownership, I don't know, do you really want to have people that live in Connecticut that are supposedly just buying houses and adding ADUs and now they're managing from afar?
Investment properties.
So
We're
there's
not-
no principal residence?
Primary residence is no longer a requirement in the state law.
Okay.
And so, this town, I mean, it's one of its beautiful traits of it is that everybody takes ownership in it because you have single-family homes, you don't have a lot of outside interests. You don't have a lot of multifamilies with absentee landlords.
Mhm.
I think this creates that potential. But again, there's not anything you can do. I mean, it's a requirement of the law, and we have to comply. Unlike the MBTA, it's not like you lose grants or whatever. Like, there's no choice. You just have to comply.
Does it go for the same for like multifamily homes too? Or can you still build an ADU on a multifamily?
I would say yes.
I thought I saw that in.
And the limit is one per
It's
property.
900 square feet is the maximum.
But you could have a multifamily and an ADU.
I would say yes. Again, I'm sure some of this is going to get litigated over time.
Yeah.
And we'll see what but the way it's read right now, our understanding, the answer I would say is yes.
No, if it gets litigated, then it's already built. There's not much they're gonna do about it, really.
No, but obviously,
Be
and unfortunately, I
grandfathered.
do think that right, wrong, or indifferent, I'm not arguing the policy, but I think that there is a real push, obviously, from Beacon Hill, that they want more housing. And so I think that the courts have accepted that as the interpreted legislative intent. And as a result, I think judges will most likely defer to that opinion.
How about bylaws, town bylaws? Are they waived? Assume we put an addition on a house, but it's now in the 50-foot buffer.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
No, setbacks are still, setbacks are still in place. You can't encroach on wetlands. I mean, all of
Okay.
those remain in place.
They remain.
That is correct.
So they could, practically speaking, not all 3,000 houses would be able to do this because they might not meet all the other requirements,
That is
right?
correct.
So they may violate the other bylaws.
Yeah.
And if so, then you can't do it. So like if you have a garage and you go on top, you're not going to violate a setback because you've already got your footprint.
Right.
If you're going to add an addition, you might violate a setback.
But I
Um,
was saying to Mo, I think our septic requirements are going to protect a lot of that. Because if you're building another space with a bedroom, you have an existing septic system that was probably built for the size of your home. If you add a bedroom, you're going to have to upgrade that septic system. And what I read from the state was that you have to bring it to current standards. So if your house is okay right now and it would pass an inspection, but if you add a bedroom, you're going to have to bring it up to code. So I think that in some way limits what people will do unless they're willing to spend like $30,000 and upgrade their septic
Maybe an
system to have
in-law
have
situation.
900 square feet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, that was my theory of reading this stuff.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's valid.
it is valid. I will concur with that. If you have a 3-bedroom home and you have a 3-bedroom septic system and you want to add an ADU which has a bedroom, then in theory, you are going to have to increase your septic system to a 4-bedroom home. That is correct. Or four-bedroom system. That is correct.
Yeah, because we don't have public sewer.
No, we don't have,
Yeah.
so I just feel like that would slow it down.
It does mitigate some of it, yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
It'll have some slowing effect.
But every town in the Commonwealth is gonna have to adhere to it.
They're
If they
already
haven't.
adhering to it, yes.
Mhm.
So, to be honest with you, the reason we're doing this is because there are some provisions in here that, and I don't recall what they are, that like, for example, there is supposed to be by right. We have some provisions in here as to what you're required to do. That's not in state laws. That's why you want a bylaw, so you can kind of spell out some of the processes. But if you don't have a bylaw and say, and I'm making up a town, you're in the town of Easton, you would just go by state law. We're amending this. You don't have to have a bylaw, but just our bylaw is inconsistent. And so if somebody goes to the building department today and they say, I want to add an ADU, it puts the building official in a bad position because he is required to follow state law, but he's also the zoning enforcement official and he has to follow local zoning.
Yeah.
So we have to amend this so that way
Yeah.
he has clear, he knows what his path is going forward. And our residents need to know too.
So is this something where we have to like make a motion, then recommend it or not recommend it?
That is the role in this case here, is yes to either, again, I know sometimes in zoning, you guys will say refer to voters,
Yeah.
but I do also think that, I think in these cases, I would request, of course it's up to the committee, I would request that we recommend, and you can easily admit that you don't want to.
Hmm.
Like, it's, I think, but this past presidential election, you said it a lot. I think a lot of people voted, not everybody was happy with just having the choices that they had.
Mhm.
Like, but you voted.
Mhm.
So the same thing in this situation is that these are not good choices, but as a recommending body and a body that hopefully the town meeting should be deferring to, meaning you guys, because you reviewed it, I think you'd have to recommend that we have to comply with state law.
Yeah.
I have one more question. If someone builds one of these ADUs, isn't that a taxable event? Doesn't that
Sure.
increase?
Mhm.
the-
It is.
Yeah.
So it could increase
Revenue.
tax
Mm.
revenue a little bit.
Mhm.
1,000%. The building permit gets pulled. After the building permit is completed, meaning it's signed off on, then it goes to the assessing department. The assessing department says, okay, you added $100,000 of value to your house. Your house was assessed at $500, it's now going to be assessed at $600. So based on whatever the tax rate is, your taxes will go up accordingly.
I'm just thinking of ways
Yeah.
this can get mitigated.
Yeah,
It's-
yeah. No, you're right, you're right.
I don't think we'll see as much as we think, but there are mega companies that own homes these
Oh,
days.
there's a lot of investments in
Yeah.
real estate. Yeah. All right, so do we have a motion on Article 1?
I'll make a motion to recommend to the voters that we pass this as written to comply with the state mandate.
Okay.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Do you want the truth?
Well, yeah. I know, I hear you. This one's a tough one. This is the the infamous MBTA zoning law.
Yeah, so, we made a decision in the spring to table this because there was still some outstanding litigation, and we wanted to see how that played out. Unfortunately, every single case that has been brought has been awarded on the side of the state. So, you have to comply with state laws. We just talked about with the ADU. This one's a tad different because what the law says is that if you do not comply, then there's penalties attached to that. We are putting the slides together. I have to review it, so I don't know the exact dollar amount. But I believe, again, if I'm wrong, I'll know more on Monday, but I think it's worth $284,000 in grants that over the last 24 months that we would lose. We just received $171,000 to do a sidewalk, because we're going to try to now do the sidewalk going up South Elm Street. next year. And we would lose that. The police department just received a $30,000 grant, we would lose that. And there is also discussion at this point as well that potentially, and again, it's all potential, it's not written into any law, as to whether or not all funds from the state could be subject to it. So, you get $7 million in Chapter 90 funds, Chapter 70 funds, you get $400,000 in Chapter 90. I mean, it just adds up to millions. Again, I want to be, I want a full disclosure. To my knowledge, there are 3 towns at this point that have still chosen not to comply and are considered non-compliant communities. One of them, you may have seen the most recent article, it was Winthrop. I think it's really funny how the state is obviously overwhelmingly one party, and that one party continues to talk about how climate change is the #1 threat to human civilization, all that stuff going forward. I'm not saying whether they're right or wrong, it's just we know that's the narrative. Winthrop is on the coast. They received a $1.2 million state grant to be able to build a wall because every time that there's a storm, it floods. The Healy administration pulled the funding, and this past storm,
I saw that.
Winthrop flooded. And so the DPW there was literally there with their equipment trying to, during the storm, it's my understanding from reading the article, to try to mitigate against that. So I find it, I think, a little unfortunate that that they could say on one hand we have to do to protect personal property and human life during storms, and then they take money away that was intended for that purpose.
Is that town meeting, Winthrop, or?
Town meetings and town council. So they're like Bridgewater.
Okay.
So I know they have voted no. I know another town last week, Carthage, has voted no, and they have said we'll just deal with the consequences. So I don't, again, want to mislead you. You have that right. But I just don't, at this point, it's, one, what is known, it's not worth the cost. The second part is what is not known. The Supreme Judicial Court ruled in the Milton case that the Attorney General's office now also has the authority for civil enforcement on municipalities that are non-compliant. But that's not etched in statute. We
Does
don't know
that
what
mean they're
that
going to come in and
means.
arrest the town people?
Well, it's civil, not criminal. So it would be, but, so, I mean, I assume that
Oh.
would be penalties and fines.
Fines.
I used this example, is that that when you speed, you run the risk of getting a ticket. But you also know that there's only so many police, you might know where they are, there's a chain, right, all those things. In this case, every time you speed, you will be fined, which is daily. However you want to look at it, because there's no, you're automatically non-compliant. So I don't know, excuse me, what the civil enforcement will be. Nobody knows that. That will take effect January 1st. It's my understanding. And so what the Attorney General will make for a decision at that point, I don't know.
If I'm not mistaken, this is on a ballot question right now.
Well, they're
Could be wrong,
collecting
they're collecting
signatures in an
signatures
attempt
for it, correct.
to overturn it.
So if that gets overturned prior to something starting to be built, again, if it's just signatures, I don't know if it matters because they don't seem to follow what the signatures happen anyway, but
I know, because we know last year,
the audit thing.
the audit, and that was 72%, 51-49. I mean, it's almost unheard of to get 72% on anybody.
On anything.
On anything.
Yeah.
And so you're entirely right, Chris. The legislature and the governor has not heeded the will of the voters on that. So, in theory, remember, you will not be on the ballot until 2026.
Yep.
And that's assuming that
Gets the
it's certified.
signatures, yep.
So, but assuming it is, it's on the ballot in 2026. We pass this, maybe it would have potentially been rescinded. Look,
It's a risk.
the only one thing I will say is, I think we've collectively done a really, really good job of saying, on a law that we did not want to comply with, how do we put West Bridgewater in the absolute best position that we can? And so the overlay district, I think you know this, but I'll reiterate it, is where Lamco is and Mallory Headset is up on North Main Street.
There's a
It's-
picture here. And
Right, there is a map in there. It is nowhere near a real population center in West Bridgewater. It's one of the wider roads in town. So hopefully it'll have a little bit less impact. The part that we did with Mr. McLeod, and I think he is a really good trusted partner on this, is that we cannot require as part of the MBTA law that it is a 40B project. You can't require that. But the agreement with him is that he would do it, if he were to do it, as a 40B project. And so if, and there's a lot of ifs, because in order for him to maximize 143 to 150 units, which is what this would be, he needs septic from Brockton. He does not enough ability to do it on site. So that's a whole nother thing, is you've got to negotiate with Brockton. So let's assume all of that occurs. And you get 150 units up there and it's a 40B. You are now 40B compliant till at least 2030. If you don't do it that way, somebody else can come in and build 130 units somewhere else in town with no control because they can do it under the 40B law. So I feel like this is our best opportunity to say, okay, how can we make a bad situation a little bit better? We have somebody in town who has really cared about this town, done a lot for this town, continues to do a lot for this town, continues to volunteer for the town, and is looking out for the town, and is willing to voluntarily comply with the 40B rule as part of this process. And then at least for a minimum of 5 years,
How does that work?
you no longer would have to comply with
How's
40B.
the 5-year rule?
Well, what it is your housing is always based on your centennial census. So
yeah.
that's done at, we know 2030, 2031 will be certified.
Okay.
So based on that number, they will then look at the amount of affordable units you have. And if you're 10% or greater, then you don't have to worry about complying with that number for the next census, which is 2040. So right now, we're about 140, 150 units shy. So by doing it this way, then we are locked into about that time. Now, come 2030, you'll have more houses, the denominator and the numerator change.
Yeah.
You have to relook at it. But I think it would be nice that we could comply with the law so we don't lose grants. Apartment complexes are going to be built, and we can't say that they're not. And this one here complies with 40B, and then now we have a 5 or 6 year runway where you are not going to lose control. Understand, somebody can always come in and build a 40B elsewhere, but then they have to comply with all of the zoning and go through a special permit, which potentially can be denied. If you're under your quota, then a lot of
They
those.
can't force it. Yeah.
Well, we can't prevent it.
Right.
And so they don't have to comply with all the zoning. So I think this is our best opportunity to say, how can we, again, the proverbial kill 2 birds with 1 stone, how can we comply with MBTA and put the town in the best position to prevent a large-scale apartment complex under a 40B for at least another 5 or 6 years?
I think the residents need to know the funding risk we're at. Already the discretionary, but if they get into 90 and Chapter 90, Chapter 70 money, somehow, I can't even imagine the repercussions of that.
I agree, and again, I don't want to mislead anyone that it's not, there's no ink on that, is my
Right.
understanding, but I will tell you that that has been the whisper.
Yeah.
And so whether accurate or not accurate, at this point, we know, look, I know as of this past week, because we received $200,000 worth of grants.
Yeah.
That's gone, right, that's the start.
Yeah.
And then there's still $284,000 that we've already secured.
We've already secured
So
for
we know going
projects,
forward,
yeah.
those are gone.
Yeah.
We know that we built River Street sidewalk using Community One-Stop funding, which is under the Complete Streets grant. That was $400,000. That's gone. So, that those are all going to disappear. We definitively know that.
Yeah.
Well, and that's real money. Those are positive changes we were able to effect with grant money that
And-
we wouldn't really have been able to do otherwise.
Right, and so I think the pill is a little bit easier to swallow if we can also have it as a 40B. So
Yeah.
that way you can
Yeah.
prevent another large-scale residential complex from being built couple of next handful of weeks.
Right.
I just,
And avoid any kind of punitive stuff after January that we really don't know what we don't know in that space. Yeah, so here we are. So for this one, again, I think, we have an obligation to the town to give them our opinion of this. So I don't know if anybody wants to make a motion to either recommend or not recommend this.
Are you doing a little overview for the
so,
town? Yeah.
so
You
we
got
have
the slides, yeah.
So, yeah, we've worked on our PowerPoint, we've already processed it, we've already informed the moderator, but we're just tweaking it a little bit, so we're hopefully gonna have that done.
Yeah.
Tonight.
I'll make a motion that we recommend the, I don't even know what to call it,
It's just Article number 2.
Article 2,
Yeah.
that we recommend Article 2.
Second.
Okay, any additional questions or discussion, or all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Some you have to hold your nose tighter than others. Okay, Article 3 is a bit of a, I guess, a shortfall. So the fire department had purchased a stretcher, I guess, and they didn't invoice us. They purchased it in April, is it? They didn't
We
invoice
took
us.
delivery of it in April.
Yeah, we took delivery in April. They didn't invoice us until August, which was after the fiscal year end. So we have to, we can't pay that bill until we get the town to approve to pay that bill, because now we're in a new fiscal year. Do I have that right?
100%.
What was it for again, a piece of
stretcher.
property?
Power stretcher.
A stretcher.
Oh, okay.
So do we have a motion on, to the voters on funding this? Payment of this bill.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Kind of have to pay the bill.
Yeah, I mean, the money was there. It's
Yeah,
It's just timing.
it's timing.
Hopefully none of us need to use it.
All right.
well, it's being used.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
So then, our item 4 is approve the meeting minutes from April 17th. Do we have a motion for that?
Move to accept the meeting minutes from April 17th.
I think we have to approve them.
Approve the meeting minutes from April 17th.
Second?
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Mo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then accept the meeting minutes of August 21st for review.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Second?
Thank you, Sue. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, so 100%. A reminder that the special town meeting for these articles is October 20th, which I believe is this coming Monday.
Monday.
At 6 PM in the usual spot at the high school. We are on the, how do you say it, on the agenda, or open a meeting at 5:30 in case we have anything we have to discuss. So just that reminder to everybody, if you can be there, that's great. Any questions on that? No. Okay, then I guess we'll take a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Thank you, Mo.
Second?
Thank you, Sue. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody
Aye.
opposed? Okay, we're out.